Hello, everybody. WeRabbit here, and welcome back to the Otaku Overload podcast. I'm actually really surprised. I was looking at what number it is, and we are already up to episode 25, which that is wow. We've already reached 25, 1/4 of 100, 25, which would be, half of just about half of a year. I know we skipped a few weeks here and there, but yeah, it means we've been doing it for maybe like half a year already, which is like, wow, the time flies by really quick. That's really cool. And just excited that we're still doing this. I don't know, like I said, just the fact that we've already done 25 of these, I feel like time flew by really quick. What are your thoughts on this, Legend, Jonathan? Do you feel like it was quick? Do you feel like it was slow? Are you surprised?
Yeah, it feels pretty quick that we got into episode 25, I thought it would take quite a bit more time, but the fact that, we've gotten to this number already is pretty big and awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. With
Yeah.
that being said, we have quite a few things to talk about this week. I watched quite a few new things well, not a couple new things. I was a few, but it's a couple. It's not that much, but I have a couple things to talk about. But they're some pretty good ones. Just one in particular, I'm really excited to talk about. I really want to, I guess, you can say, chill that series to everybody. And then there's some news stories that are pretty interesting. A show at the end of a show at the end that we're gonna recommend. That's a weird one, but I don't know. It's one of those I feel like no one talks about, so I want to talk about it. And yeah, before we start though, I am gonna kick it off to Jonathan. But I know that you had said you don't really have much going on, which you're gonna kind of explain why. So go ahead.
The reason why, well, yeah, thank you. The reason why is because basically for the past week and the next 2 weeks and a half, basically, I'm making my finals because school's about to end for me, basically. And so it's basically just trying to catch up with work, trying to make ends meet with like work being turned in and like, trying to keep up with grades if grades are kind of low, stuff like that, the students or anything. And so, yeah, like I've just been trying to, that's the reason why I haven't like had much to do during the week. But I did get around to doing two things, and it's pretty short, and I watched something related to the topic, so that's something too.
That's true.
So basically,
I did tell you, hey, you should check this series out. We talk about it. You did check it out. So that's
hmm
true. That is something. That's true. That's true. So go
hmm
ahead. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
so basically, I've read because I mean, let's be honest, I didn't think I would ever return back to Urusei, but yes, I did go back to the Urusei series because I haven't finished my manga collection and I haven't like finished reading them. Basically, I read volume six, which was, it's been pretty good. What's surprising about volume six, though, because I'm about to talk about that, is that basically, you remember that episode? I think it was episode 11 that I mentioned was like the New Year's one, where like Mendo, which is like the rich kid, his sister, like, because they were playing like some weird like New Year's game, at the end they get like blown up, kind of like Team Rocket style or whatever,
Oh yeah,
where
yeah.
like
You
the
said yeah. I think that was like the week where you're like this week felt like it was like filler, or it felt like it
Well,
was like
you said it felt like
non-canon, or
filler, yeah.
yeah, it sounded like filler. So like I'm like, is it even like canon? I think you said it might have been like non-canon or something, something like
So
that.
yeah, basically, yeah, it's a part of the manga. But what's crazy is that because the anime adaptation, this new one, it has changed quite a bit between the original and the 80s and this one. Like they're changing a lot of the stuff, obviously. The way that the original manga adaptation ends is basically that Ataru, Lum, and Ten, instead of getting blown up freaking like Team Rocket style, instead they get sent back to the beginning of the building and they have to replay the whole entire game again.
Okay.
Yeah, and Mendo's sister, she has no involvement at all to the game either. And what's crazy too is that if you look, the manga gives you a demonstration of what the house looks like the quote unquote board game, and basically you get to see every single room they were in. And so
Huh.
it's cool because it looks like you're looking at a board game.
So
Like
yeah, it's
you see
one
the
of,
fit.
honestly, it's one of those things where sometimes the manga I mean, is it cool if when stuff gets adapted to anime? Yeah, but there's some stuff that just like really works in the medium of like being able to read it and stuff, huh? Because
Hmm.
like there's like little diagrams sometimes, so there's like little and there's stuff that they just don't bother to show in animation for some reason, huh?
Yeah, I've always thought in that the manga is definitely like obviously people are gonna be like, oh well, yeah, because it's the manga, it's like the original thing. But like even then, there was some stuff that I liked about both adaptations that I liked more originally. And like reading the manga, like you get to see it like in its like you really do understand it and you prefer it more. Like even if it's something like, oh yeah, no, you would expect that I would like think like, oh, maybe the anime fixed it up. It's like the anime didn't fix it up. It's like it made it kind of worst. Like it feels kind of weird saying it, but it feels like it kind of ruins what the original like vision is, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
that's why usually I recommend if you've noticed what I've said, oh, like this is our anime topic, or I've said, oh, there's an anime this season, let's get an anime adaptation. I've read the manga before, whatever. Yeah, I recommend reading both on it. I recommend looking at both all the time
mhm,
because
that's what I always do.
I feel
Yeah.
like if you want like the full experience. I usually don't just say like, oh, just like watch the anime, even though the anime is adapting it. I feel like it's still good to like experience both if you can. You know what I mean?
Like the
Like,
original source and the adaptation. Yeah.
yeah, because sometimes like you said there's just like a different experience, and like sometimes it's kind of cool the pace, being able to read it on your own, and like there's stuff that like gets cut
Hmm.
out. So I think it's nice to do both. I feel like you get the full experience by looking at both, reading the manga, then looking at the anime afterwards, and I don't know. It's kind of like when they make like a book out of a movie. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Exactly.
Like it's always nice to read the book first, get the whole story, experience it for yourself, whatever, and then you get to watch it, kind of come to life in a movie. And obviously the movie's not gonna be able to
Hmm.
cover everything because that's just the way it works. So that's why I think it's kind of important to do both. I like it. So I can see what you mean that yeah, there's probably just some stuff that just doesn't translate or just they don't adapt as well or something.
Hmm. Um, yeah, it's definitely what I felt. Like I like same thing. I like going through both adaptations of stuff, looking at its original source material, seeing what translated well to its adaptation, what didn't, what, makes sense, like what filler do they add to kind of like further the explanation from the original, basically. Because I know for sure that in a lot of the animes, people are like, oh, this moment was a filler moment, though. It's not canon. It's like, well, there's a reason why it exists. Sometimes it's to like adapt more to like a plot hole and stuff. Like sometimes they have to like fill it in so you know what's happening. Because like for
Or
example,
yeah, or sometimes it's literally just because like they need something to transition from like one moment to the
mhm,
other or something.
so it doesn't just feel so random. Because I know, for example, like Dragon Ball, like definitely Dragon Ball, definitely. Like I've read the manga, like I've looked at the manga like digitally. I've watched the anime adaptations, and I've played Kakarot, and literally like each experience is way different from one another, because either they'll add filler on purpose just to like properly do stuff, or they'll literally remove it just because, oh, they feel that it was unnecessary. And literally that's the
Mhm.
thing I like, because you see different point of views through each adaptation, basically.
Yeah.
And
Like I know in
yeah,
Chainsaw Man, for instance, I'm not even gonna give a spoiler. Don't worry, I'm not gonna talk about anything that's spoilerish. But like for this first season, they
yeah,
added this scene where one of the characters, his name's Aki, the samurai looking sword guy
the
that
serious dude.
yeah, the one that Denji goes to live with. They had like a whole filler scene where it's him just doing chores around the house and making breakfast, and then he like is smoking outside. And people said like, "Yo, that wasn't in the manga, but such a nice section to the
Yeah,
show. This is
because
the
it builds the
character."
character.
Yeah, it's a characterization. It's just a nice moment to show this is what the character is doing, and this is kind of how he lives his life. And it's filler technically because it's not in the manga, but it's a very nice, animated section.
Hmm.
It adds like the episode and stuff. It just feels like it goes in
Hmm.
really well. So yeah, sometimes they just have stuff that isn't technically, canon or
Canon.
whatever, but or filler, it's stuff that they may call filler, but sometimes it works.
It helps develop the stuff more, yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
outside of that, the manga, I did catch up on the English dub. I watched episode 5. I know like episode 10 I think came out recently, but the reason why is I'm just going kind of like slowly, kind of like with the original one basically.
Yeah.
Um, I confused episode 5 with episode 10 because I thought for some reason it was the other way around. But yeah, it was the episode where basically Ataru thinks that Lum's obviously he wants to go out with that one girl supposedly, and the guys they write the letter to trick him because supposedly like they say that Ataru's ruining their chances at getting girls and stuff because he keeps scaring them. And which actually is true. Like literally the fact that they explained it so well is pretty crazy. Because they were even saying they're like, this dude like scares the girls so much and we're like friends with him that eventually they'll just think that we're a gang of perverts, basically. And so purposely they write the letter. Um Honestly, I felt like they translated a lot of the stuff perfectly, especially because it wasn't like those dumb English dubs from like the 80s and 90s and 2000s where they would be like, oh yeah, there's like a jelly filled donut. Like here they really translated like the
Yeah.
food. So it was
Yeah.
cool because they're like the girl who they hired, she ate like a tub of ice cream, she ate a burger, ate a bunch of pizza, ate I think it was like pork buns or something like that. And
Nice.
like they mentioned like she ate like mochi like ice cream or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the stuff she ate, and I was like, oh, that's so cool that you guys really like mention like Japanese food and American food, you know. It's not just, oh yeah, she ate ice cream that was like pistachio, or
Oh
she
yeah, that's
ate
what's saying. These days they localize
definitely,
stuff pretty
yeah.
good. Like they localize and translate. I would say pretty good, like 90% of the time. Yeah, which is
Hmm.
kind of funny when
It's
you
not
watch an
like,
older series, you'll see like the difference. It's like, oh, it's so weird.
yeah, like, oh yeah, no, she ate like uh what about like what would a pork bun be? Like, oh, she ate like a dinner roll. She ate a dinner roll.
Yeah, something like
And
that. And
like
I'm trying to think what they would say for mochi. They would say like marshmallow or something.
marshmallow ice cream. Yeah.
Or something
Like
like
something
that.
like
Because
that.
yeah, you know how mochi are little, like little balls, like a little marshmallow or little truffles. I don't know what the hell they would say, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like they're so like Hero was so cool. And then the voices, like obviously I had gotten used to them by the first episode. Like I got really like I didn't even have to watch the 2 through 4. I didn't even have to watch them basically. And when I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely them. Like I got so used to it. And how do you call it? Yeah, it was so cool. Definitely hearing Lum's voice, especially when she gets emotional, it's actually kind of sad. I felt bad too.
Yeah.
But freaking the episode ended off pretty good. They translated the ending pretty good too. Um Me and of course 𝐤𝐤𝐤 was there for the ride. So he was there watching
Yeah, I know you
the
always do like
episode.
you always do like a watch party sort of thing. He watches, I know.
Yeah, he was watching, and Ataru's like, yeah, like Islam, has she always been this beautiful? And we're like, yes, you dodo. Like saying
Oh wow, that's
like how
funny.
did you not? Yeah. And yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. And I'm definitely gonna continue the dub because the freaking second season isn't gonna come out until like next
Oh, I
year.
know. So I guess
Like
plenty of time to just watch the
definitely
dub as it
plenty
comes
of time.
out.
And then I find another like reason to like kind of talk about the series, I guess, again, because the English dub they might change some stuff, obviously, because stuff jokes might not translate well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was pretty cool. That was the only thing I like did majorly.
Man, you were obsessed with Urusei Yatsura.
Yo, I really am, bro. It's
Like
either that or
you've like
like
watched the manga. I mean, you've watched the manga. And you like have and have read the manga, and you like watched the original series all the way through, basically almost. And then like you're watching the new one and the dub of the new one. Like like calm down.
yeah. Oh, and
I would
I've
be
seen the
surprised if you're
movie.
like
I've
I
seen the
would
movies.
yeah, I would be surprised if you're like there's like this game that's like only in Japanese, but like I played it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I'm probably gonna do that.
Oh my god, see, you're already obsessed with it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's either Urusei or like Dragon Ball around there.
I know, right? It's kind of funny. It's just like so
Yeah.
different, but those like two things that you like always seem to be like in some form or another.
Talking about
Engaging
yeah.
in. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, if that's it for your week, on to my week. For my week, I'm gonna
Yeah.
start with something that's a little familiar. I'm gonna talk about, of course, Pokemon Horizons, the series. Reason for that is that in the last episode, it just continues to be interesting to talk about. It's like so different, so new. We don't really know what's happening yet, so I feel like it's
Yeah.
worth talking about. You know what I mean? Because if it was like regular Pokemon, it would just be like, oh yeah, Ash did a thing, No offense to Ash. I mean, we already know Ash's like whole thing, right? So it's like, oh, Ash did a thing. He,
Yeah.
But here it's like, so different that I'm still kind of like trying to figure out what's happening. It's like I said, it's still interesting. Not too much happened in this episode. What was of note though is that in the end of the last episode, we finally met Roy, which is the kid with like the little red streak in his hair, and he's like on an island near Kanto. Apparently, there's a lot of wild Pokemon everywhere, but there's not really any trainers, no one to really like train him. So, he, obviously he ran into the 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸. He made friends with it. But at the end of the episode, 𝐸𝐸𝐸 and Frayed and 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, they go back to their airship, and it shows that Roy's at home and he's kind of like in his bed or a little sleeping bag. I forget. He's sleeping. I don't remember. He's looking out the window. He's looking at the sky. He's kind of sad. Sure enough, this episode starts where 𝐸𝐸𝐸 is on board and she's sleeping with her Sprigatito, and then someone's like sneaking on board, and it ends up being Roy. That he came because he wanted to like, I guess, say bye to 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 is what he said. So he like snuck on board. And I remember what happened. Something like where they let him stay and spend the night, and they say like, oh, you can like say like good morning. I don't remember exactly what happened. I don't remember. I would have to rewatch it, but something where they tell him he can stay on board, but 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸's like sleeping elsewhere or something. It's like asleep. And they're like, oh, but like 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 loves to sleep. So like something about like maybe like talk to it tomorrow or something. I don't remember too good. The point is, next day comes around, and I don't remember why again they kind of get separated. 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 does know that Roy is there because he left like a little berry. And I think he left like a little, I don't know if he left like a little note or something. And then one of the people that's part of the crew goes like, oh yeah, Roy was here. He must say bye to you, but you were like weren't around or something. And so like 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, leaves the ship again, and somehow back on the island, 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 and Roy, they do reunite and they're really happy, and they kind of engage in a little battle sort of thing. Where at first 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 can't use Ember, but then like the Roy starts like singing and like being all like trying to motivate it, and it ends up like using Ember and like defeating one of those people from the evil organization.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it, honestly. It was mostly just focusing on Roy and the fact that you can tell that him and 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 really like each other, and that they're gonna, they reunite basically. And the other thing was that like, oh, 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 and Frayed, they were trying to get the village elder, which ends up being Roy's like grandfather, to help them repair the ship. And then they get the idea of like, oh, we can use this a lot of like wild like Caterpies and Weedles and stuff. Let's use them to patch up our ship with like their silk, like all the holes and stuff.
Oh yeah, they definitely have a lot of silk. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was basically it from what I remember. I don't think anything too important happens. I think it's just like, they kind of just reunite, and that's mostly it. And then they fix the ship. And I think in the next episode, that's where we're gonna find out if because he's like bonded so much with 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, maybe his like grandpa will let him go with them or something. I'm guessing that's probably what's gonna lead up to.
Yeah. No, I definitely need to catch up on that series.
Yeah, so not too much happening in this episode, but I just continue to like it. It's like, really interesting. Like I said, I'm still really interested in like, okay, why are they after like her pendant? What does that mean? What does his Pokeball mean? What's gonna happen what's gonna happen with them as part of the team? Because it looked like it was gonna be like it's 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 at school and she's learning about Pokemon, but since she's like on a break right now and she's like under the care of this like team Rising in the sub, they're called Rising Volunteers, which I don't know if it has something to do with like Volt-Tech or something, I guess. But with this team, right? And like I wonder what that will lead into. Like, what will their adventures be like if they're traveling around with this airship crew? Like what? Because it's not going to be, I guess, about like traveling the world catching Pokemon. It might be like there's different like objectives they have. So I'm still curious to see like what's going to be the main point of the show. Because it still seems like it's a lot of lead up. But so far I'm still enjoying it. 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, man, they make him like so cute. It's like really funny seeing 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 it's like really clumsy, like really goofy and stuff. So I love seeing 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 just in action. It's like really funny. When I played Pokemon Scarlet, I actually picked the 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, so I already kind of have a love for it. So it's just fun seeing it, animated in action. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm still watching that. Like I said, I'm still enjoying it. Then I did watch two new things this week. The first one I want to talk about, because like I said, the last one, oh, the third thing I watched is the one that I really want to hype up. So I don't know if you've ever heard of these books called Frog and Toad. Does that sound
Oh
familiar to
yeah,
you?
definitely. Yeah. I've read a few of them.
Okay, yeah, because there's these books that are called Frog and Toad. And I know what kind of made them popular too is that I know there was like some memes a few years
Hmm.
back, like during the pandemic. Like one that really popped off is the one where they're eating cookies. And it's like I think it's like frogs like we need to stop eating cookies, he cried as they ate another. And then people were like, that's so relatable and stuff like that. People were like joking and making like a lot of memes about like stuff from like the books. And
Yeah.
yeah, basically it's this really cool like kids book series. They're like picture books. You know, they're not chapter books, right? They're picture books. But they're like really cool where it's like just about like these two friends, Frog and Toad. And it's just like all these like adventures that they have and all these like things that they like, run into. And it's just yeah, it's just like really fun because they're just really like they're kind of dumb, you know. I love when characters are kind of silly, kind of like that Winnie the Pooh style, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they're kind of like that, where they're just like really goofy and like really like naive and stuff. And so they just have all these adventures. And like, yeah, there's one where like one of them makes cookies and he takes the other, he takes the cookies to like his friend. I don't remember who's who, but like one of them, Frog, maybe takes him a Toad or the other way around. And they're eating the cookies, but then they realize they're eating too many and they're trying to freak out about like how they should do it to like not eat the cookies. And so like first they try to put them like in a box, but then like no, but if we put them in a box, we could always open the box. And they open the box, and sure enough, the cookies are there. So they freak out, and like they just keep doing like more and more things to like get rid of the cookies or hide the cookies. But then like let's say like they put them in a box, put a bow around the box, put the box in a hole, and like bury the box. But they're
They'll
like
find it anyways.
yeah, like, but we'll find the box. And sure enough, they're like, you're right. And then like open the, they unbury it, take it out, open it, and they're like, yeah, the cookies are here. Oh, we're still tempted. And I don't remember what they do. I think they end up like giving them away, or like I don't remember what they do. But the point is, it's just supposed to be like goofy, fun, kids book stuff, right? And the
Yeah.
reason I'm bringing it up is that they ended up making a cartoon series.
Yeah.
So it's over on Apple Plus. Of course, I found it. I found it online elsewhere. You can find it if you really look. You can find these things everywhere. But it's
Frog
originally
and
on
Toad.
huh?
Yeah, a Frog and Toad. Yeah.
But it's originally on Apple TV, but yeah, they put it I guess you can find it elsewhere. And yeah, it's just really fun. It's just this really cool series that yeah, it's basically them adapting the stuff from the little books. They add some more. That's kind of what we're talking about with like the anime, because obviously the books might be too short, or there's stuff that they kind of need to get from one scene to another, that sort of thing. So there is
So
some
they
stuff
add some
that's a little
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's just stuff that's a bit different, but I still think it's pretty cool seeing the books translate to a cartoon. So I was enjoying it. I watched a few episodes of it, and I'm like, it's so cool that this book series that I don't know. I feel like maybe I was like the only one that read it, but then I saw some other people talking about it online, especially when like the memes popped off. You said you know about it, etc. So it's just
I
cool to
read
see
it.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just cool to see this book series get adapted for more people to know about it. That's really fun.
Yeah.
So I recommend it, even if you haven't read the books. And if you have read the books, then yeah, you should watch it because, like I said, it's a fun adaptation, and it's kind of cool to see it, come to life. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about, and this is the one I want to hype up because I had heard about this for like a while now, is I watched the first two episodes. It's what's premiered, it was like a 2 episode premiere. I watched the first two episodes of a show called Unicorn Warriors Eternal. Now, you've watched Samurai Jack before, right?
And Powerpuff Girls. Yeah.
Okay. Because, yeah, there's this guy. His name is Gendy Tartovsky. I don't know how you say his last name. I'm so sorry.
I think that's his.
But yeah, his name is, Gendy Tarkovsky or something like that. And this dude has made some really good stuff. He's made Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, Star Wars Clone Wars, Symbiotic Titan, Primal. He made the Hotel Transylvania series. He worked on Powerpuff Girls, as you mentioned, and Batman the
Hmm.
Animated Series. And he made this new show called Unicorn Warriors Eternal. And he's really cool. I really like him because he's like really into animation. He really respects the craft. And I think it's really cool too, because like a lot of people try to like almost like insult him, and they'd be like, oh, like I think when he made like Hotel Transylvania, they're like, oh, congratulations, then like making it to Hollywood. I can't wait till you make like your first live action movie. That way you'll be like legit or something like that.
That's
And
so dumb.
he got mad. And he's like, "What do you mean legit? Like to me, animation is legit. You know how so many people like look down on animation, which is like really crappy. But he's
Yeah, they
someone
always
who's
think animation's like for kids, basically. That's it.
yeah, they always
Yeah.
talk trash about it. And he's one of those people that's like always been like a champion for animation. He's always like defending it, and he's always saying like, no, you can do like so much with animation. Like it's an art form. You know what I mean? And like,
Hmm.
yeah, I would say out of all his work, the one that I've like resonated the most with is like Samurai Jack, because even though it was like a cartoon like for kids, but at the same time, it was like so like mature at the same time.
There was like I remember the first episode literally has like green, like a lot of blood because he like kills a bunch of bugs and shit. Well, it's not real blood. I think it's like oil. But even then, like the way they depict it is like him literally slaughtering like
Yeah,
actual
yeah,
bugs. That's what it looks like.
because it was
Yeah,
for because it was for kids, they weren't showing blood. They would show like, oh, he's killing robots, he's killing bugs, and stuff like that. But you could tell it's because that's
it's
like
more serious.
yeah, it's because if it was live action, I mean, if it was live action, if it was like for a mature rating, it would be blood. But here, obviously, they tone it
Hmm.
down for it to be appropriate. But you can still tell that it's still mature in the way he like
Hmm.
fights and like the storylines and stuff. Anyway, though,
Yeah.
so he made this new show called Unicorn Warriors Eternal, and it's pretty cool because apparently this show he had thought it up like a long time ago. It even says right here, I have like the Wikipedia page pulled up. It says he originally conceived Unicorn Warriors Eternal in his early days at Cartoon Network Studios. The series took almost 20 years to get made. It says that he pitched it to various studios with little to no success, and then eventually it was picked up by Cartoon Network and HBO Max. And so right now you can watch it on HBO Max, the episodes as they come out, or you can watch them on Adult Swim. That's really
Mm,
cool. And
that's
yeah,
pretty
it's
cool.
really cool because the moment I saw it, especially when I saw who I'll call the main character, which I'll talk about in a moment, I was like, this art style reminds me of something. And sure enough, it even says right here that it's inspired by the works of Osamu Tezuka and Max Fleischer. And if those sound familiar to anybody, it's because Tezuka is who they call the grandfather of animation.
He
Of
made Astro
manga.
Boy.
He did Astro Boy exactly in some of those series. And then Max Fleischer is the studio that was the competition to Disney for a while. That they're the ones
And
who
they
made
made
like
Betty Boop.
they made Betty Boop and stuff exactly. And
Hmm.
it's because when I saw there was this character that you could call, I guess, the main character, when they showed her, I'm like, why does her look seem familiar? And it's because, yeah, kind of like Betty Boop, like that style. She has like a very like large head and like really like kind of like chubby cheeks and like big eyes. And so that's what it
Yeah.
reminded me of Betty Boop. And yeah, the art style is really interesting. Like all the characters have yeah, like that like 50 like that well like pre-50s like artwork style, you know what I mean? Like Max Fleischer. It
Hmm.
really reminds me of like that style. It feels like you're watching kind of like an old school cartoon. And it's funny though when it zooms in on people's eyes though, when it shows people like emoting, they have like really big shiny eyes with like big old like eyelashes and stuff. It's like really funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, getting to the actual show itself, though, the reason I want to hype it up, number one, I think, like I said, I think Gendy Tarkovsky, I think he's awesome. He's made some really good shows. And I also want to hype it up because the fact that it took him so long to make, he finally made it is really cool. And the show itself seems like it's really interesting. Like, he comes up with some really good like lore and stuff. Like he's really creative and
Hmm.
stuff. I'll read like the little premise and I'll kind of go into it. So it says in Unicorn Warriors Eternal, an evil force is looming across the dark, thick-aired streets of Industrial Revolution London when a group of heroes dubbed Unicorn are accidentally reawakened in the bodies of teenagers instead of adult hosts they've embodied in the past. Melinda, a powerful sorceress, Sang, a cosmic monk, and Edred, a warrior elf. With distorted memories and their magic abilities weakened and fragmented, the trio must work together with help from their steam-powered robot Copernicus to unravel the mysteries of their past and present that will reveal their path to defeating a timeless threat. And so yeah, it's really cool because it starts literally with like these three warriors. It's Melinda the sorceress. She's like all like black basically. She has black hair. What she wears looks almost like a black bodysuit, and she's using like black magic, like everything's black. It's her,
Yeah.
and then this like bald monk that he can like he has like these eyes, like he's always looking at like the spirit realm, and he's using all sorts of like cosmic powers. And then there's the last guy, Edred, who's a warrior elf. So he has like the pointy ears, long silver hair. He looks like he's wearing more like armor or whatever. And it starts with them that they're fighting this crazy, like energy looking, I would say almost like a wolf. It's like a green energy looking wolf, and they're fighting it. And they say that somebody's late, and we don't know who they're talking about. And after they are able to, Melinda uses an attack to kill the thing basically, but she gets injured in the process. And that's when from a portal shows up Merlin. That apparently he's kind of like their boss. And Merlin says that he kind of explains to them that I went to the future, and that's where he gets that robot that I mentioned, Copernicus. And I think this big round gold robot with the top hat. And he says he's gonna help you guys because you guys are meant to fight evil through all eternity. And basically from there it shows that anytime like they die, the robot like houses their soul. And when it feels that it's time, it releases the soul into like a new host. And so it shows like a little montage of like, oh, there's like this Viking, and he's like in his tent, and like the robot shows up and releases a spirit into him. And so it releases the spirit of the elf guy. And so the Viking, grows like the long silver hair and the pointy ears. And he's still like kind of Viking looking, but it's like, the spirit took over and like he's like reborn. And then, then it shows that there's like some knights, and they're like on top of a castle, and they're fighting that green, spirit wolf thing. And the robot shows up, and it's like this girl knight. He releases the spirit. And so it's like the Melinda again, the dark sorceress, but this time she kind of has like a little bit of like a knight motif. And then there's like a warrior, like a Native American warrior. He's like in the woods and he's like hunting. And then sure enough, the robot shows up and it releases the soul of the monk. So he like loses all his hair. And so he's like bald down and he has like the shiny eyes. But he looks like a Native American warrior now. And so it's kind of interesting. Cool. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting how you see like through all of time, like the robot really does help them like reincarnate by like introducing the soul to the new host. However, if you're wondering, that's kind of weird though, like the host is like that the soul is like grabbing a new host. Because you would think that when you hear a reincarnation, you kind of think like Link, right, from Legend of Zelda, where it's like he's born with the soul already inside of him, right?
Yeah.
So isn't it kind of weird that this person already existed and the soul takes over? You would kind of think like, doesn't that have some weird implications? And yes, you're right. And that's where it gets interesting, as it says here, that this time around, when the robot's helping them reincarnate, it has some side effects this time. So for instance, where the whole series, this episode starts proper, is our main character, her name is Emma, and she's this girl, we don't know how old she is, but she's supposed to be like a young woman. And she has, blonde hair, blue eyes. It shows that she's going to go get married. There's this guy named Winston that's her, like, love. And, it shows they really do love each other. And it shows them talking, and they're about to get married. And they're really happy. And sure enough, the robot breaks into the chapel and releases the spirit of Melinda into the girl, transforming her. And guess what? So now she has, like, she's confused about which personality is the real one, because they tell her that her name's Melinda, and she's, like, this ancient warrior. But she still kind of feels like Emma on the inside. And so she's fighting because she doesn't know who the real person is. And so she feels all confused because the one personality is kind of trying to take over her Emma personality. You know what I mean? And so that's really messed up. And the same thing with the soul of the monk, Sang. They go to like this abandoned school where there's like a bunch of like delinquent schoolboys. And then one of them, the soul gets released into him, the soul of the monk, and he like loses all his hair mostly, and he like gains the eyes to like the cosmic world or whatever. but all his friends are like, why is he floating? Why is he acting all weird? This isn't our friend. Because he basically got hijacked by the past spirit. So that's
Yeah.
weird, right? So it's like it's so weird because it's kind of like, how do you deal with the fact that like you're your own person, but now you kind of also have the spirit of this old like warrior in you, and you're like dealing with like kind of being a bit of both at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that's where like a lot of like the conflict starts in like these first two episodes. That the guy who has the host of the monk, because he's a child, he doesn't have like his full powers because he can't control them because it's too much. And the girl,
Yeah.
because she's like fighting about like which is the real her, and she like doesn't want to give into like the old she doesn't have the memories of her old self, but she does like have like the powers, and she's like dealing with like what they're telling her. So it's like her freaking out that she doesn't want to be Melinda. She wants to be Emma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, the third guy, the guy who does end up becoming an Edred, like the elf guy, he does seem to have most of his memories. He seems to be like the one that's the most intact. But he's dealing with the fact that as they're trying to fight the evil, and in the present day in London, and he's supposed to get like his team back together, his team is like all like broken and incomplete. So he's dealing with that. So I don't know. It's just like really interesting. Like you have to watch it for yourself. It's really weird, really interesting. But it looks like it's going to be like a really good series. Like it looks like it's really well thought out, and it looks like it's going to have like a lot of like. It already looks like it's going to be like pretty good, like really deep. If they like really like let this show run, I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah. It sounds pretty good so far.
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to explain. I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but it's one of those things where you really have to watch it to like see what I mean, and you'll kind of see it. I'm like, oh yeah, it really is interesting with the whole reincarnation thing and they're in new bodies, but like it's the old soul, but like the new bodies, it's not really working out and stuff. Like it's pretty interesting. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because there was the first two episodes, that was the premiere, and like I said, I really hope it's not something that gets canceled. I'm really hoping that's
Oh,
something that like I know he also made that show before this, which I have not checked out, called Primal, where it's about like this like caveman, fighting all sorts of prehistoric stuff. And
oh
I
yeah,
think
I
that
remember that definitely.
yeah, I think that show's still ongoing. So hopefully, they let the show go on, kind of like Primal, and we can see like what the whole vision is because it looks pretty cool. It looks interesting.
Yeah. I actually real quick, I actually forgot that this dude Gendy, that's his name?
Gendy.
Gendy. I forgot he actually made Dexter's Laboratory. So when you mentioned that, I was actually quite surprised because I forgot that he created that first. Then
Yeah,
he made Samurai Jack.
yeah, that was the first thing that he created because he, like I said, he also worked on other stuff, but I think that's the first show that he created. And then after that, he created Samurai Jack, and he kind of went from there.
That's the thing I forgot about because yeah, I know he worked on Powerpuff Girls, which is why the art styles between the first three shows they're so similar,
Mhm.
especially. But I forgot that. Yeah, I definitely forgot about that.
Yeah, and then it's also weird. It's so weird too to know that he made Hotel
Hotel Transylvania.
Transylvania. It's like what? That's that
Mm-hmm.
came from him. That's so random, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but like I said, guys, I would say if you can check out the show, give it your support. I really want to see it succeed because this dude, he makes some good stuff, and the
he
fact that
died.
he takes the animation so serious, I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for my week, though. Those are the shows that I watched, and yeah, I liked all three of them, and I really say go check them out, all three. I think they're all like pretty good in their own way, even though they're all very different. So.
Yeah.
Alrighty, getting on to our news. I have one news story that it's still okay. No, it's our rumor actually. I think now it has been confirmed, is what's saying here, but we just don't know by how much. That's the part of the rumor. So have you heard about how there's supposed to be like maybe a King of the Hill revival?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've heard about it. Yeah.
Okay, and how a lot of people are wondering, is it gonna be is it gonna pick up where it left off? Is there gonna be a time skip? If there is a time skip, how much? Blah 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 blah,
Yeah,
right?
I've heard about that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so basically it has now been confirmed. Like I said, we don't know by how much, but it has been confirmed by the guy who voices Bill and Buck Strickland and a few other characters. It has been confirmed, as the title of this article says, King of the Hill actor confirms Revival will feature a time jump.
Damn.
So that's the part we don't know. A lot of people say there's a rumor that it might be 15 years. A lot of people say it might be less than that. Like, it's not really too known yet. The leading like rumors that's gonna be 15 years. So if Bobby was 13, now he'll be 28. He'll be an adult, and then Hank will be an old man or whatever. I think he'll be 60 because I think he was 45 in the original and stuff like that. We don't know how much yet, but that's the rumor. It's gonna be 15 years. But we do have confirmed though is that there is gonna be a time jump. So I think that will make it interesting. Because we've always just seen Bobby as a kid, and he's always just kind of just being like that little weird, interesting little fat kid. So it'll be interesting to see if he's an adult. How will that play into the series? Because it'll be him as an adult. His parents and all the other characters are going to be old now. A lot of people are wondering if there is a 15-year time skip. Maybe they'll take some of the babies. Because you know how Hank has like a brother who's like a baby, right, in the original. And you know how Luann and her Lucky, they had a daughter that was also a baby. People are saying maybe if there's a 15-year time skip, maybe what they're gonna do is that Bobby will be kind of like the new Hank, where he's dealing with these like teenagers and he doesn't like understand them and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people are wondering, like, if there's a 15-year time skip, maybe that's what they're gonna do. What's gonna be like? There's gonna be like the teenagers. There's gonna be like the middle, which is like Bobby, and like if they show like his friends and whatever, and there'll be like the people like Hank and all those characters who are like the older people. Maybe that's how they'll break it up, because that'll be an interesting way of like kind of like how do all of these different like age groups deal with one another,
like generations and stuff. Yeah,
that's kind of like the leading thing that people are thinking, that if they do the 15-year time skip, like that would be interesting to like check out. So I don't know, it's pretty cool. So it's kind of interesting that there is gonna for sure be a revival. That is confirmed, and it is confirmed that there's gonna be a time skip. So all we have to wait and see is how much, and what will it be like to see Bobby grown up or whatever. And what will it be like to see, all of his other friends and stuff if they show him as adults too? Like that'll be pretty cool, I guess. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And people are wondering too. They're like, will Bobby like have a different voice since he's like an adult now, or is he gonna still have like his kid voice? That would be like really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too. Because that's the other thing too. They've also said that they've confirmed basically all of the old voice actors are back. Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see, what they do. So I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, because it could just be his voice, but much deeper. But then that's gonna be kind of weird, because like the fact that it's the same voice actress, so like the strain on the voice too of like, that's my purse. Okay.
So it could be. I mean, I know Mike Judd voices. There's a lot of different voices. Maybe Mike Judd will voice him.
That is the truth. He could do that.
And then if the voice of Bobby's returning, maybe it's because, as people mentioned, maybe she's going to voice those teenagers. Maybe she'll voice Hank's little brother. Because if he's about Bobby's age, right, he's going to be a teenager. Maybe he could have like the Bobby voice now.
That's true.
Yeah. But I'm excited. I just hope that, I want to wish the best. Because this guy, Mike Judd, like, Beavis and Butthead is back. It feels really at home. It feels great. He makes some like really good content. So I'm hoping he knows what he's doing, and I'm hoping that he does bring the show back, and that it's, worth watching, and it's fun. So I don't know. I'm just looking forward to that, and I am cautiously optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I hope it ends up being pretty good.
Yeah. And then our next two stories, they're kind of they're not really like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, they're not really like announcements. They're not really anything big. There's kind of some fun things that happen, I guess is the best way to explain it. The first one, I think it's kind of cool. So it says, prototype GameCube from infamous 2000 Nintendo Space World presentation discovered.
Let's go.
So yeah, I just thought it's kind of cool news story that, if you remember, if you're like a fan of Nintendo, that back in the day, instead of doing like I think they still did E3, but they had like their own conference called Space World that they did. I don't remember how long, but they ended it in 2001. And
they
it was
ran
really
from.
Do you want to start?
I think it really did start during the N64 era. It was like 1996.
Oh, okay.
And from there, it lasted until 2001 because I think they gave up on the whole like doing their own conference thing. So it really wasn't that like it was kind of like not a
So
10-year,
it was less
like it
than
was
10
like
years for
a
sure.
yeah, it was like six maybe you could say 6 years around
Oh,
there. Yeah.
all right, there you go. So yeah, I know that Space World wasn't a very like long-lived thing, but even then, I know that
hmm
people really like had a lot of love for it because that's where they show a lot of like really cool stuff.
Dude, a lot of stuff was shown off. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so basically, what this whole little story about is right here is that during Space World 2000, which is like one of the the second last one they ever did, that's when they announced the GameCube and the Game Boy Advance. And
hmm
during the 2000 Space World, they showed a prototype for the GameCube that that's basically what started my story that someone they got hold of it like they like I guess they bought it in an auction or something. It's just somewhere in the story. I forgot where it says. But yeah, it says basically right here. It's pretty cool. And the original GameCube, it looks a lot like the GameCube now. The controller is
hmm
the one that looks really different. If you look at
Oh
it,
yeah, I've seen the prototype one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll even describe it here. It says right here, where is it? Hold on. It says, some of these are just different air vents or colored labels, but the top of the prototype is transparent to allow users to see the disc inside, something that wasn't carried over to the final design. Yeah, so for the GameCube, it looks just about the same. Only difference is that it has an opening in the top that's transparent so you can see the disc, which I think it's kind of cool. I wish they kind of have left that. It actually would have been a cool feature, honestly.
hmm
But that's something that they changed. Besides that, the GameCube itself looks, pretty much the same. The controller, though, is really different. It says here, more interesting is the iconic controller, which sports a third bean-shaped button, like the final X and Y buttons, as well as no D-pad. It's been replaced by a start button on the left prong instead. So if you've seen a game controller, think about how it has like the left analog stick. That's the same, and then the C stick is also the same, but where the directional pad would go, the D pad, that's the start button. In the middle of the controller, there's no buttons; it's just all flat. And then the X button and Y button are the same. The A button instead of being
Red,
instead of
green.
being green, it's blue. And the B button instead of being like a smaller button next to the A button next to the A button and a little red button. Instead, it's a green button that looks kind of like the X and Y button. So it's a very different
hmm
controller. It's really different. Yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly don't like it. I'm glad they changed it. It looks really weird, honestly.
Yeah, I've seen it before. It's a really weird design. I'm actually pretty happy they changed it because yeah,
Yeah, like the design
like it just
they ended
doesn't
up
fit
with.
it.
Then the design they ended up with is like perfect, honestly.
hmm
Yeah, because I don't like the third bean shaped one. In that case,
It kind of
they should have made like four bean shaped buttons maybe, and like one in the middle, or like I don't know. I just don't like it. Yeah,
and it would have been like the X like the you know how the buttons now they're like 1, 2, 3, 4. They're like all in from left, top, right, and then bottom. They could
yeah,
have done something like that, honestly, if that was the case.
yeah. Maybe like all bean shaped or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the point is that yeah, it was very different, and yeah, it's pretty cool that someone has it. I guess. Yeah, let's see if it says where they got it. Hold on. Yeah, it just says that someone from Kotaku got alerted to it. Like, I guess it just showed up. I don't know. Someone may found it somewhere or bought it in an auction or something. That part doesn't really say. But I guess the part that matters is that okay, whoever had a hold of it, they like have pictures and they have it in their possession. And so it's kind of cool to see that it's not lost, like the prototype still
Yeah.
exists and it's out there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. We just need to get them prototypes of Luigi Mansion, bro.
Yeah, it's one of these days. You know how there's always leaks for a lot of Nintendo stuff and like
Oh, it's a
codes and
lot
stuff,
of them. A
or
lot.
people have
Yeah.
like like you said for the N64 stuff, they've compiled it or whatever. I'm sure
hmm
we'll get the other stuff too eventually.
hmm
All right, finally, the last news story. It's a short one, but it's just one that I thought was really interesting. As it says here, rumor PS5 Pro dev kits shipping soon to first party developers. So I just thought this was a really interesting story because I was just going to say PS5 has been a wild ride. It's only been told like really recently that people are finally being able to even get their hands on PS5s because they have been from like the time they came out to now, they've been like really hard to get your hands on because of like, there was a shortage because of the chips and there was a lot of scalpers that bought all of them, and, blah, blah, blah. So it's crazy because they're barely even really available. And I was going to say the reason I haven't even bought one is because I kind of thought this might happen. That, yeah, there's a rumor that there's going to be a PS5 Pro, which shouldn't be surprising because for every PlayStation console, they always
There's
release
always a
like
really big upgrade.
yeah, exactly. Like think about like the PS2. They ended up releasing one that was like super slim later on, right?
Mhm.
And for the PS3, something similar where they had like the big fat one that had the backwards compatibility, and they made a whole bunch of versions that had like different gigabytes and capabilities and stuff, blah blah
And
blah.
slim and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing with the PS4. There was like the PS4, and there was the PS4 Pro, and so I kind of thought this would happen. That's why I wasn't really in a hurry. Number one, because there hasn't really been too many games for PS5 I'm like too excited to play. It's only recently that I'm really like, okay, stuff started to come out I'm getting excited for. But then I was also like, I feel like I could just wait because I'm sure there's going to be a PS5 Pro. Like I'm sure there's going to be one. And sure enough, like it says here, there's rumors that, dev kits are going to come out soon. So if you read the story, it is still a rumor, but based on the information it talks about, and then just based on knowing how Sony works, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a Pro. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I haven't really bought one. I've been kind of waiting because I'm like, I might as well maybe just wait, give the PS5 Pro, see if they're more available, and that sort of thing. And sure enough, there's rumors. So I don't know. Maybe I'll wait. I haven't really felt like the huge need to get PS5 up to now. So maybe I'll wait to get a Pro, or we'll see. Maybe it just depends on how many games there are out there I want to play. Right now, there's a couple now. I mean, if there's like a really big library, that's where I might start like really thinking like, okay, I want to play
It's time to upgrade.
yeah, like, I want to play like the Resident Evil games. I want to play, let's say, Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to come out on there. The new Final Fantasy, whatever other crazy thing Kojima comes up with and stuff like that. That might be where I kind of go like, okay, there's a handful of games. Let's go for it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys, that's it for the news this week. Like I said, a couple of news stories are pretty short. One of them was just like a announcement of something that was discovered. One of them was just a rumor. The first one's the one that I thought was pretty, it was a little more meaty because we were learning more about the King of the Hill series. But there you go. That's it for the news. That means that leads us to our last section of the podcast, which is the topic of the week. And I'm excited for this one. I kind of mentioned it before. I want to talk about the series because it's one that I think is really interesting, but not a lot of people talk about. And you said, that you had watched it because that we could talk about it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Your thoughts on it, that sort of thing. But before that, to introduce the series we're talking about, we are talking about an anime called No Matter How I Look at It, It's Your Guys' Fault I'm Not Popular, aka Watamote, because it has a really long Japanese title. Watashi ga motenai no wado kanagatami omari wa ga warui. And that you squish it together, it's Watamote. So yeah, Watamote. How do we describe it? I guess we can read the little premise. It says 15-year-old Tomoko Kuroki believed that she would become popular upon entering high school because she has become well-versed in the world of otome games. In reality, she finds that she has become an unsociable loner, though she still forces herself to try out what she has learned about achieving popularity. As she progresses through high school, Tomoko attempts to improve her social status among her peers. And then I'm going to go down a little bit more to describe our main character. So Tomoko Kuroki is our main character. Tomoko is depicted as a desperate, lonely girl who is characterized by her social anxiety, vivid facial expressions, and bags under her eyes. She has a grim outlook on life, as most of her thoughts involve insulting others or herself. She spends most of her days playing otome games and browsing the web. and then that's where I'll stop. So yes,
Yeah.
what did you think of this series? You watched it. How would you like?
So some of the stuff was pretty relatable. Like it was pretty funny watching it because I was like, bruh, like this is like, I'm like this is like cringy because I'm like, this is
Thank
like,
you. Yes, I was waiting. I didn't even want to lead you to it. I was waiting to see if you would use the word cringy. That is the best way to describe it. It is funny,
yeah,
but because there's some stuff that might be relatable to some people, if they're kind of a
that's the
little bit,
thing for yeah,
it can make you cringe so hard, and it makes you go like,
yeah,
oh, right. It makes you like stop for a
yeah,
moment, right? Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
It was
yes.
pretty cringy. Yeah,
Oh my God. Oh yeah, like it's a really good series, but it like I said, it kind of makes you go like and it makes you like hurt because it's just about this thing. It's kind of like it's mostly just like kind of like a comedy slice of life sort of thing. So don't expect too much plot. But basically, it's just especially if you watch the anime, because it's just 12 episodes. I know in the manga, if you keep up with it, there is a little bit more character development. She does eventually make friends, and then it progresses a bit more, but that takes a while
yeah.
too. So where it got to in the anime, because this is an anime from, hold on real quick. This is an anime from 2013. So this is a
Damn.
while ago. This is 10 years old, and they haven't really made like a follow-up to it, unfortunately. So yeah, it is an anime from 10 years ago. It only did like the first 12 episodes, so it only covered a bit of the story. But oh my God, watching it, like I said, it's a slice of life. It's just supposed to be a comedy that makes you cringe. And so these 12 episodes are just our main character that, yeah, she wants to be popular, but she just has social anxiety and she's such a weirdo that she just doesn't know how. And so she just fails over and over again, right?
Yeah, it's very sad to
Like
watch.
there's an episode where she goes to a restaurant to order because she sees that
Oh
her classmates are
yes.
doing it. It's like a that like McDonald's parody, and then like, she's gonna order a
Yeah.
meal, but
What
she like
condo? Yeah.
what do they call it?
What what Donald's? What Donald's?
Yeah,
It's
'cause
like that.
they always call it something weird, right? When they make fun of it in Japan.
They flipped the W. I mean the M. They flipped the M.
Yeah, and so yeah, so she goes to like the McDonald's ripoff to order, but because she's so like social anxiety, when she tries to order the meals, she's like stumbling over herself and mumbling, and she's like all shy and she can't even like do it, even though like in her head she thinks that she's like the coolest shit, right? And like she can't do it.
Yeah, she's like, yeah. She's like, I want, I'm burger. You want the number? Yes.
Yeah, it's so awkward.
Do you want fries and a drink with that? And then she sounds all loud and like,
Yeah, that's literally like how you do is literally how she talks. It's so awkward. But
yes.
that's what
And
makes
then
it
she's like,
funny.
it sounds all cringy.
Yeah, and then oh my God, I feel so bad for her because like I said, because like in her head, she thinks that she's like the coolest shit, right? And she thinks that she doesn't like succeed. She's like, oh yeah, like she like always talks crap about her classmates. So she's like, they're all a bunch of like sluts, and they think about boys, and they
Yeah,
want to be popular, like over here with their makeup or whatever. But then at the same time, she says that because she's like jealous, and so it's just like this like
mhm.
mix of her be like a total like dick in her head, but then like on the outside, she just like she's just like so like cringy. Like I don't know, it's just so weird to describe it, but it's just the comedy of seeing like all these situations she gets into, and the comedy of seeing how she's like all confident in her head, but then like in real life, like you said, she's like all awkward and mumbling and like quiet and like oh my God,
Yeah.
it's so funny.
And
And
then,
then the thing too is that she's like a huge perv too.
Oh, that's what I was gonna. Oh yeah. There's that one scene. Oh my God. There's that one scene where she like I think it was like a girl and her boyfriend and they're just talking and like she's climbing up the stairs with them and like she like looks up the girl's skirt or something like that. And then like she's crying later and she's like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And then it shows like the girl's panties or something like that. And I was like, dude,
Yeah, that's why like if you continue with the manga, they say that's kind of become a little like Yuri-ish because she has like
yeah,
weird fan service and stuff with like the people she makes as friends. Like she keeps being kind of a
yeah.
perv around them. So it's become kind of Yuri-ish in the manga because it's like she definitely seems like she's like bi or like I don't Yeah, I would say lesbian, but no, I think she's definitely like bi or something. I don't know. Like
She's definitely, yeah.
and like I said, she's such a perv too because like she's always played Otome games that which if people don't know. Otome games are like the games that are like the
Like dating sim.
like the dating sims, right? But she like plays like the hardcore ones with all like the scenes and stuff in them. There's a part that's where the cringe comes in. She falls asleep playing one of those, and her like dad
Yes.
sees her, and he like moves her from like her computer to her bed. And I think like the next morning when she like realizes that she got carried to bed, she's like dying because she's so embarrassed.
Yeah, because like it wasn't even just that, but I think she bought like I think it was like a massage
Oh
thing.
my god, yes, no, I just
Yeah,
remember
and
this.
she was using it. And the thing is like eventually she stopped and she just had it on. And I guess she was just kind of like there playing the game. But the thing is she fell asleep and then yeah, like the dad is like, what's that noise? And then literally like, yeah,
Oh my
freaking just
god,
like
yeah. So she always gets herself into
yeah.
all these situations. Like, okay, we just said, like it makes you laugh, but it makes you cringe. It's like, oh my god, that is so like embarrassing. That is so
I'm like,
awkward.
bruh, like come on, this kid's like messing everything up. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then it's really funny too because she's like really short. She looks like she's like almost like malnourished, right? She's like short,
hmm
really skinny, has the bag under her eyes. Her hair is always all like messed up and everything, right? And she has like this
yeah.
brother who, even though it's her younger brother, he looks like he's like her older brother because he's all like well put together and he's a talented soccer player and like he actually has friends and stuff, I think. And so she's always like kind of like bothering him and she's acting like she's gonna give him advice and stuff. And it's like, oh my god, it's so awkward because like, he's like so much better than her, like socially and like sports and stuff. And like there's some cringe and like comedy from that too, man.
A lot.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, it's just one of those anime slash manga that like it's funny and the situation she gets to her into are funny, but it's one of those things where it will make you cringe and it will make you go like, oh my god, that's like so embarrassing. And you'll feel the secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah, like it's just super like some of the stuff is just I'm telling you, like the social anxiety part is like the relatable thing. Like the way she was talking and then she gets nervous, that's like where it makes me cringe. So I'm like, bruh, like I'm like, dude, like the fact that it's that hard for her to order a burger, and then the
I
other
know.
lady, like, she'll finish the sentence for her. So she's like, you want a burger with that? Yes, yes.
Yes. Oh, that's so weird, dude. But yeah, once again, guys, it's called No Matter How I Look at It, It's Your Guys I'm Not Popular, which is a long ass English title.
It's your
And
guys'
then
fault. Yeah.
yeah, and then in like the name it's known by also like I said, the little short like Japanese one, it's Watamote. WTAMOTE. So yeah,
I'm
I
definitely going
recommend
for the
it.
long one.
I recommend it. It's weird, it's cringy, it's gonna give you secondhand embarrassment, but I think it's a really interesting series. And like I said, it's kind of a shame that people don't talk about it more because it's really good. It's one of those kind of like you can almost call it like a classic. There are a lot of people who've seen it go like, I remember that one, and they'll talk about it. So I say check it out if you're listening to this.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it as well. And the main protagonist, I've seen her a lot, like throughout the years. So I was pretty happy to like finally watch the anime and then also cringe out by it. Especially because like the moment you told me you're like, yeah, watch a
What's the
Mote.
one take?
I'm like, wait a minute, is this the one about that one mofo? And then I looked it up and I'm like, yup, of course it is. And then I started
Nice.
watching. Yes, I recognized it.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, it's one of those that even if you haven't watched it, you might have seen like merch and stuff around. It's just,
Mhm.
it's well known. So yeah, so there you go, guys.
Yeah.
Check it out. Alrighty, guys, and that's gonna be it for this podcast. Hopefully, we discuss some stuff that you guys want to check out. Like, I definitely recommend the stuff that I talked about. I would definitely recommend Watamote, which you mentioned at the end. And I'll let you, Jonathan loves Urusei Yatsura. So I think the more people
Yeah.
he can get into it, like the happier he'll be probably.
Yeah.
Watch be like, no, it's the opposite. Only I want it for myself.
Only love that series.
Oh my god. But yeah, guys, check it out. The stuff we talked about. Hopefully, we mentioned something that you guys enjoyed. Hopefully, you guys had a good time listening to this. And as we said,
Yeah.
once as we say at the end of every podcast. We will try our best to be back next week with a new episode. We'll see how that goes. I'm excited to see what new stuff comes out because I know Tears of the Kingdom comes out pretty soon, so that's exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, there you go, guys. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you later. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.